Hello and welcome to the Cyber Safety Newz show here on the Safety Newz Network. My name is Adam Blue. Each week I'll dive into the news of cybersecurity, kind of show you what to watch out for, and then maybe give some tips on how you can better secure yourself as you're out there in the cyber world, logging into sites, accessing devices, and all that stuff. Today's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about what came about, a lawsuit with Five Guys and a hack that happened with them. This is Five Guys Burgers. And then also how much money can be made by ethically hacking. Does that make sense? Is that a thing? Well, yeah, we'll get into that as well. And then lastly, attackers using Wikipedia to attack others, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. Wikipedia allows you to edit the website and add things to it. So could you add malware? But yeah, we'll get into that. First up here, Five Guys. So let's dive into this. Five Guys disclosed a security breach where hackers gained access to the email accounts of two employees, according to consumer disclosure letters filed Friday with the Attorneys General of California and Maine. Excuse me. The breaches discovered on June 7th were the result of business email compromise. Sam Chamberlain, COO of Five Guys, said in the filing with the Office of the Maine Attorney General. The Lorton, Virginia-based hamburger chain, which has about 1,700 locations worldwide, did not indicate how many total individuals were impacted, but only 3 Maine residents were affected. So, I've heard of Five Guys. There's one near me, based in Virginia, so that means they have a wide range. But what we're getting at here is apparently only 2 emails were hacked and 3 residents were affected. Now, that seems very small compared to the size of the company, but it still could be bad. And that's why it's important to have security measures in place to stop things like this. The breach disclosure comes just weeks after Five Guys agreed to settle a federal class action lawsuit involving a September 2022 incident. In that breach, files linked to the company employment process were impacted, affecting more than 37,000 individuals, according to records filed in Maine. Black Cat Alf V in February claimed credit for attacking Five Guys, according to a February post on X by security researcher Dominic Alvieri. Social security numbers of 3 Maine residents were accessed as part of the incident, according to the Maine filing. In the most recent incident, one employee account was accessed between March 20th and March 31st, while the second email account was accessed between May 31st and June 7th, according to the breach notifications. Both accounts had multi-factor authentication enabled, and Five Guys immediately enacted its incident response plans, took steps to secure the accounts, and retained an outside cybersecurity firm with experience handling similar incidents. Chamberlain apologized in the letter and said the company had taken additional measures to prevent a similar incident. A spokesperson for Five Guys was not immediately available. An attorney for Baker Hostelter, listed as outside counsel for Five Guys, was not immediately available. So, interesting here. I would like to get some more information as well because, again, like I said, it was just 2 employees that were hacked and 3 people that were affected by this. But even if it's just that small of an effect, it could have wide-reaching implications. Who knows, with those socials, someone could have their identity hijacked and then their credit destroyed. And really, as small as that might seem to a large company, that's something a company can be liable for, and they need to make sure they have, like they said, multi-factor authentication and other security measures. Hackers can get past multi-factor. So it's interesting just with this scenario to see when an incident can occur and someone's data could be breached and it's found out about it, and then you could go bring that company to court and be like, look, my life was affected by this. You know, in a case where it could be having to do with money, someone's credit being affected, you know, getting money from a company like, you know, Five Guys is actually helpful and might teach them, okay, we have to make sure we are following security procedures, security standards to make sure this doesn't happen. You know, it's good for it not to happen to people, but also they don't have to pay. These companies don't have to pay out. But at least there's measures in place to help people that are affected by this stuff, because you never know how far it can go. So this next one is really interesting. Let's see. HackerOne paid ethical hackers over $300 million in bug bounties. So let's dive into this, because could this be a job for an up-and-coming hacker? Okay, HackerOne has announced that its bug bounty programs have awarded over $300 million in rewards to ethical hackers and vulnerability researchers since the platform's inception. 30 hackers have earned over $1 million USD for their submissions, and one has broken the record, receiving over $4 million for his bug reports. Founded over a decade ago, HackerOne is a bug bounty platform that connects organizations with a community of ethical hackers who identify and report vulnerabilities and weaknesses in software in exchange for a reward. Essentially, it is a bug bounty hosting and disclosure coordination platform allowing companies to manage reports and resolve identified issues promptly while guaranteeing payouts to reporters. This year, it took an average of 25.5 days for organizations to finalize the finalize the remediation of reported bugs, a 20% improvement over last year. So saying that they can remediate a reported bug in 25 days, which actually seems pretty quick. If I'm thinking of just software in general, the updates that are required sometimes, the different levels of effort into remediating something. There's so much to that. So one, that's cool that they have a way of getting this done quickly, but they have this intermediary, this HackerOne, who's able to find hackers to work with companies to help. And this is good stuff. Now, I say find hackers, but sometimes when it comes to bugs, it's not the same thing as hacking, but they can be. You can have a bug in software that just messes things up and someone's trying to fix it. So they can go to the company, hey, I figured out how to fix this bug. Or it could be a bug that leaves a hole in a system. It's like an exploit. So again, while bugs don't necessarily mean hacking, they're kind of synonymous in some respects. So how much for a bug? Excuse me. HackerOne released its 2023 Hacker Power Security Report, sharing insights on this year's trends. The company highlighted that crypto and blockchain entities continue to enjoy the most attention from ethical hackers, fueled by the promise of the highest payouts. This year, the largest bounty paid was $100,000 from a crypto firm. The median price of a bug on the platform is $500 this year and reaches $3,000 in the 90th percentile. For critical and high security flaws, the average payout is $3,700 across all industries. It goes up to $12,000. So you can kind of see when it comes to just like a bug, finding a bug, that there's a cost associated to that, which is probably still cheaper than hiring someone full time. You know what I mean? It's almost like outsourcing bug fixes. But once you get to the security aspect of it, you see where it goes up a lot higher because these are critical. And so it's good to see that, there's a difference between a little minor bug and a security flaw. That, again, is a bug, but it has different implications there. And then, a little graph kind of showing how that worked. So, there's more to this, and the link will be below. But I just find it neat that this does exist. If you think about how our world works, like a gig economy, you can find people that know how to find exploits, fix bugs, and contract them to do work. And so I wonder too, is it in the best interest of organizations to use HackerOne to get a hold of hackers? Does it look bad on a company itself to just reach out to hackers? That's very interesting. I bet HackerOne has vetting processes, almost like a recruitment firm, and they kind of look through the applications and say, okay, could we trust you? Because who knows if you're trusting someone to do something that's hacking, and there's this kind of built-in scare there of like, oh, could they be doing something bad? So that's a pretty interesting little, communication system going on between organizations, hackers, and HackerOne. Very interesting stuff. Next, this one is also pretty interesting too. Attackers can use modified Wikipedia pages to mount redirection attacks on Slack. So there's multiple things going on here. If you're not familiar with Wikipedia, which I would think most people using the internet probably would after Facebook maybe, but with Wikipedia, it's like this online encyclopedia. The thing is, people can go in and edit it. And who knows if an edit is legit or not. Yes, there are people that will check it and then verify it, but I've come across obscure pages or of things that the information is incorrect because there's not a large group of people that would be monitoring that and modifying it and making sure it's okay, especially if it's a page based on something that a company has interest in. They want to make sure it's not saying anything bad about it. But I guess within editing a page, you could potentially put in some malicious code that could be unseen by those reviewing what's been edited. And then you take the fact that when you copy a URL and paste it into something else, that could be like a Facebook post. You know how it like builds its own little like preview with an image and some text? That's some neat dynamic code exchange happening at that level between the source and the destination. It's like code execution to make something happen. Now, I guess in this case, there could be malware that, depending on where the code is executed, in this case Slack, which is a communications platform used primarily by businesses, very similar to Discord, which we've talked about on this channel before, where they themselves have been hacked. But by pasting a link into Slack, it does a code execution to populate the preview. That code execution could potentially lead a user to a malicious website. So it's like an interesting and tricky way that the hackers can try to like throw some seeds out there, see where they sprout. Isn't that kind of scary? It makes you think whenever, I'm now thinking this too, anytime I'm on a platform that then has a link for me to click on that from another source, and it creates some sort of like image with some text to make it look nice and clean, I might need to think twice before clicking on that link, to make sure there's nothing malicious about it. Maybe if there are some, and this is something I might need to look into, if there's some Chrome extensions out there or Edge plugins or your browser of choice, add-on of choice, that can actually detect this stuff within the browser. I know some places do this, like I know I use Steam a lot, I use Discord a lot, and when I'm going to external links, it gives me a warning. Hey, you're heading to an external web page. We don't know what this could lead to. Is that okay? And you hit okay. It keeps them from being liable. So yeah, this is very interesting, and I'll have more of the details in the link below. But just another interesting way to go about attacking, getting data, putting malicious code out there. It's they come up with the craziest ways to do things, but it's there to use. The internet code. The internet is like based on code, right? And everything, it's like Legos. And actually, that's where I'm going to get to my monologue, I guess. But it's like Legos out there for hackers. They can build it however they want. Even if there's instructions to make something this way, you could do it however you want, and maybe even manipulate the pieces to get a certain type of thing done that you want to get done. So it's very interesting to see that attackers are trying to be as smart as possible, figuring out ways that they can get malicious stuff out there. And on the other hand, you have groups with people that are just as smart, that are trying to fight that, find it, fight it, and actually get paid for it. It's good that if you are a ethical hacker, you could be rewarded for your help in finding bugs, stopping exploits. At the end of the day, that helps people, and I think those people should feel good about what they're doing. It's interesting. A line of work where you learn how to do something that would be considered bad, but to be used for good. Isn't that like a responsibility of power? Isn't that like a quote from Spider-Man and Uncle Ben? But yeah, so that's it for this week. Hope everyone's having a nice toasty one. I know it's getting cold for myself here in Texas. I'm located in North Texas area, DFW, and yeah, it's been getting cold. So anyway, guys, hope you liked what you saw. Please like if you haven't, and subscribe to the Safety Newz Network if you haven't, and we'll talk later.